Hi, welcome back to the 5-4. I hope your day is going good and I hope your week has been going alright and happy new month. So, today we are talking about if the Bible is reliable. Like, why should you believe the Bible? What makes the Bible real? Has the Bible been tampered with over the years? Yeah. So, before we go into anything, let's just establish this. The Bible is in one book. It isn't a book that fell from heaven and was given to just one man. The Bible is a book of books. It's a collection of books. That is what makes up the Bible, and it is written by over 40 different authors that were written between, let's just say, 1,000 plus years, give or take, and that is the distance between, like, in which all the books were written in the Bible. Yeah, and the funny thing about that is that in as much as these poets, poets, writers, whatever I want to call them, in as much as these writers and some poems, because there are poems in the Bible, some poets, in as much as they never got to meet each other, because these books were written over a millennium, even though they never got to meet each other, even though it was written in two different continents, Asia and Africa. The Bible doesn't have any contradictions. And I know some of you are already getting angry that the Bible has a lot of contradictions. The Bible doesn't have any contradictions, and I'll make a video of that soon. But the Bible doesn't have any contradictions, which is a very wild thing, considering the fact that its authors never met each other, and it is not in a time like this where everything can be passed down. But yes, everything was passed down, and this is what we're talking about today. How was the Bible actually passed down to us now? So, to be very blunt with you, no original writing of anybody in the Bible still exists, to the best of my knowledge. No original writing of what Abraham wrote or what Daniel wrote actually still exists to this point. And before you click off this video, as far what is the point of it? If the original are not there, then how do we have it and everything? No piece of historical evidence, at least for how long that the Bible has existed, that has been around for years, centuries actually. The original pieces do not exist anymore. What you have now are manuscripts. Manuscripts are basically copies of the original texts, and that is how it is passed down from parent to child and generation to generation and to generations. That's basically how the Bible was passed down. That's basically how we have the Bible today. And then there are different manuscripts. There are actually a lot of them, but there are different categories of manuscripts. So for the Old Testament, there are basically two categories. There's the early manuscripts and then there's the late manuscripts. For the early manuscripts, we have the Nash Papyrus, the Dead Sea Scrolls. I think those are like the most popular manuscripts, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Then we have the Silver Ketef Hinnom scrolls, if I didn't butcher that. And then we have the Septuagint, which is the LXX, and we have the Jesus Christ, I've forgotten the pronunciation of this one. It's the Septuagint. I've forgotten the pronunciation of it. But I'll put it up in the video, And then we have those ones. And the funny thing about it, I think it's the Septuagint also. I've forgotten. But the funny thing about that one is it is if you are reading through it, because it's a collection of manuscripts, if you are reading through it, I think it points in Leviticus, 11:42, there's a word there, and then in the Hebrew word, the third word there is the largest. It is the largest letter, like in the manuscript. It is the largest letter in that manuscript for the entire Torah. And the reason, the reason for that is a very fun thing, because it is the middle letter in the entire Torah. So how did they get this? They keep account for the number of letters per page, per chapter, per book. So they are very precise in their translation, in their manuscript, not in their translations, in their manuscripts. They are very precise. Like they are darking on on the copies they make. Yeah, and then there's the LXX, the Septuagint. Now this is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Old Testament. Yeah, because around 200 BC, before Christ was born, before Christ came to the scene, yeah, the Roman Empire was in power. The Greeks were in power. Yeah, and the word and the language that was spoken the most in the world, that was spoken by the Jews actually, were Greek. It is the same way in our present world now. Most of the world they speak English. Not most of the world, but a good amount of the world speaks English because they were conquered by the British Empire. I speak English, sadly, but yeah, they were conquered by the British Empire. So most people speak English, and it's the same way with them there. So it's the same thing as, let's say, wherever you are from, whatever language you originally speak here, because most people in the present time don't speak that language, they speak English here. There's now a translation of your ancient texts in your native language or wherever you come from. So like, let's say your native language is Yoruba or Igbo or Chinese or Japanese here. So like, let's say that is what your native text was in. Then the translation of it to English for people that speak English is what the LXX is, which is the Septuagint, is to the Jews, to the Hebrew people. Yeah, it is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Old Testament. That is what the LXX is, and then there are a lot of it. Not that there are a lot of it, and yeah, that is what the LXX is. And now for the New Testament one is actually very fun, and it's actually very fun, yeah, and funny. So for the New Testaments, there are again manuscripts. There are a lot of manuscripts, and before you would say that, then people can just make corrections while making the manuscripts. Yes, you would be correct, but the thing is, it isn't just one person that is making the manuscript. It is a collection of people. And the honest truth is, the way we have copies actually the best possible way, not the fact that we don't have the original manuscripts. Because look at it this way: if, let's say, we were 5 people, and let's say there were 5 manuscripts of the original text. If we're 5 people, there are like 1,000 times more manuscripts. But like, let's say there were 5 manuscripts and me and 5 people had it here. If I make a not correction, but if I tamper with my copy of the manuscript here, when we compare it, because they will compare it, when we compare the manuscripts, yeah, you, from the 4 people, you can tell that, what I said, that I tried to tamper with it here, and then you would reject my manuscript because my manuscript was false, because I tried to tamper with my manuscript, and that is how they cross-check every manuscript, because you have to cross-check every manuscript and make sure that there are similarities between everything and that everything is accurate. Now, there are tiny changes. They are not necessarily changes, but there are tiny mistakes as per wrong spelling, or let's say when the scribes were writing, they did mistake, or they made a mistake, or poor eyesight, that type of thing. Yeah, the same thing, like, let's say you're in a class, like back in secondary school or in uni or wherever you are. Let's say the teacher is writing on the board, and then your classmates are copying the notes. After the class, if the teacher wipes off the board, yeah, and if you're like me that didn't like copying notes, yeah, if you're like me, I didn't like copying notes, or like doesn't like copying notes, yeah, you could easily piece what the teacher was trying to say and copy from other people's notes, even if you can't read what somebody else is saying, what somebody else is writing here. You could easily check somebody else's notes, and you can easily match this together and be like, okay, so this is what the teacher was trying to say. And that is the exact same thing with the manuscripts. Even when there are tiny errors in, like, spelling errors or errors like that, yeah, there are other manuscripts that you can always check to make sure that, okay, this is what the teacher was trying to say, or this is what the prophet was trying to say. Yeah, and there are some times where a scribe would, let's say, add a bit more things to what they are writing to make it more understandable for the reader. Yeah, it's like those classmates that when they are writing, they add like footnotes to what they are writing, or they put in bracket and add other things, or they write on top of their notes, all type of things. Now they write to like add better context to what the teacher is, what the teacher was writing at that point. So when they are reading it later, they would better understand it. That's something that some of the scribes did. They would like add a bit to it to enhance the understanding, or to make understanding it better for the reader, whoever was reading later. They will just add a bit more text to elevate the context of it, so you can understand it better. And in the same way that you would not take out what your teacher wrote, you would only just add a few things to make you yourself understand it better. It's the same thing that some of the scribes did, and whatever they did, it's not like it was life-changing or it changed the meaning of the verse. It didn't. It just added a bit more context to the verse. It just added a bit more spice. Not spice, but just added a bit more flavor to it, so just to make you understand. And it's always very minute and it's always very tiny. And again, there are other manuscripts that you can cross-check it with to make sure that, okay, what this person is saying is in fact factual. And now back to what I said for the New Testament. New Testament is the most proven book. It is the most, how would I put this in English? It's the most proven book for historical literature. Like if you compare the viability of the New Testament and you compare it to other piece of historical literature, the New Testament will stand out the most. Why? Because first of all, there are a lot of manuscripts for the New Testament. Like, and I mean a lot, like thousands of manuscripts for the New Testament. I think there are about 5,500 Greek manuscripts for the New Testament, and then there are other versions. And the thing with the versions is the reason why they're called versions and not translations. Are not like actual manuscripts, and they're called versions is because they were translated into like other languages. And one thing is, back then, most texts didn't get translated into other languages. Most texts remained as they were. And the fact that the New Testament was actually translated actually a big feat. So they translated into Aramaic. I forgot the other versions, but it was translated into other versions. That is actually a wild thing. And like I said, there are 5,500 Greek translations for the New Testament. And then another fun thing is you can get the entire New Testament, like every word, like every verse and everything. You can get the entire New Testament except for 11 verses if you just read through the writings of the early church fathers, like people that were the early church fathers. I mean, it's insane. Like when you are trying to like write a book, or write a message or write a teaching or something, you quote other people's writings, you quote other books, you quote that, okay, so this person said this in this book, the person said that in this book, and it's the same thing with the early fathers when they were like writing like messages or things like that for people, for like their church members, or just generally early church father writings, they would add quotations from the New Testament. And if you take all those writings and take all those quotations from there, you can get the New Testament except 11 verses. And given that, of course, it would not be word for word because again it is quotations, so some of them might be paraphrased and not quoted verbatim, but you can't get the entire New Testament except for 11 verses, and then if you want to compare it with other pieces of historical literature, before I even start this, I'll just say this, that if you want to dispute the Bible, if you want to dispute the New Testament to be exact, you would have to, if you want to refuse it as being authentic, you would have to refuse every historical literature that was, like, let's say 500 years before now or 1,000 years before now. Why? Let's get to it. So Plato, we all know Plato, the famous Greek, was it a poet? No, the famous Greek writer. So Plato, in his magnificence, in his greatness here, only has seven, yeah, seven copies of his original text, and these whole things were, and the whole thing was, I think it's about, they can be dated back to about 900 years, like before, after he died, and when they were found, I mean when they were written, about 900 years, and this is just seven manuscripts, yeah. For Holmes, yeah, the Greek poet, he has over, I think 643, if I remember correctly, 643 manuscripts of his writings. Again, these are not the original writings, these are just copies. Yeah, these are manuscripts of his original writings, and it is very early to this thing, to when he wrote them. And by very early, I mean for Holmes, it is about, I think, 500 years. Is it 500 years? I think it's about 500 years from, like, after he died, after he wrote them to when these were copied. 743, yeah. And then for Shakespeare was actually very recent. It was in 1600s, if I'm not mistaken, 1600s, so 16th century, yeah. 1600s, that was when he was writing, and then and I think at that time you could already print things, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember exactly. But 1600s, this is very recent, yeah. But the honest truth is that there is no manuscripts. I mean, there are no original writings from Shakespeare. And then what we have, the copies we have, and manuscripts we have, I don't think I can even call them manuscripts, but the nearest of the manuscripts that we have from Shakespeare's writings, yeah, there are a lot of gaps in the writings that scholars now have to intellectually, if I can use that word, have to intellectually fill in the blanks, yeah. Well, the thing is, with the New Testament, it's been years old. Yes, I mean decades. Yeah, 2,000 years. That's not what it was written, but you get the whole gist. It's over 1,000 years. New Testament, you get the gist. Yeah, it has over 30,000 manuscripts and versions as well. Manuscripts that were translated into other languages. It has over 30,000 manuscripts and versions. So it has literally 30,000 times. Yeah, 30,000 times the amount of manuscripts that Holmes had. And come on, we can't even do the maths for the one of Plato, because Plato had 7, if I'm not getting that number wrong. He just has done that amount. And yeah, these few points of mine. Okay, before I ever get to that, yeah, like I said before, yes, there are some errors, but you can't really call them errors because they are just tiny mistakes of somebody's bad handwriting or missing a letter in the spelling. Again, going back to the example of writing in your classroom, if just one of your friends notes that you could not copy for you, I could not copy for anything because you could not read your handwriting. Yet there were people like that. You would have to check other people's notes to get the understanding of what they were saying. And so sometimes you might have there might be mistakes in those words, yeah. And the honest truth is, out of every errors, saying error is very generous because that is a very broad term to say. I think something like 30,000. They are not 30,000 because the errors that you are saying are just like, again, misspellings or ink smudges or all those things, yeah. Out of all those things, yeah, I think that. Hi. So my camera got off because it was full, and well, I didn't know. So yeah, I'll try my best to continue from where I stopped, if I remember where I stopped correctly. So yeah. Now the mistakes in the New Testament, they are the 30,000 that you might say mistakes that are in the New Testament. Yeah, it is from a very broad definition of errors. You can't even call them errors. It's like a thing of, like I said before, for example, misspelling a word, or when you're writing on your ink smudge, that type of thing. It's like very minuscule, very tiny errors, yeah. And then when the errors actually change the meaning of the verse, I think the errors that do that are about 5, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 25, along that ballpark. well, let's just say 5, yeah, that change the context of the verse, that change the meaning of the verse, yeah, they don't necessarily affect our core Christian beliefs. They don't affect our core Christian tenets. Yeah, they don't affect what we believe. They don't affect that we believe that, oh, Christ died for our sins and that we are saved through faith. They don't affect that. They don't affect any of our core Christian beliefs that Jesus is God and that God is Trinitarian and all type of things. They do not affect those. They do not affect those beliefs. Yeah, they do not affect them in any way. And the truth is, the fact that we can see these mistakes, the fact that we can point to these errors here, the fact that we can see them means that we know what is true. We know what is there. Yeah, again, there are multiple manuscripts, and these errors were seen from cross-checking, cross-referencing the manuscripts. Yeah, so there are multiple manuscripts, and the fact that we can see the errors means that we know what the correct and right thing is. So yeah, I hope with these 3 points of mine, I'll probably be able to convince and also confuse that the Bible is a reliable book. It's actually the most reliable book. Coming from a historical standpoint, it is the most reliable book that you can ever get your hands on. And if you still don't believe me, I would urge you to make your own research, make your own findings, make your own findings, and honestly seek the truth. Don't seek to prove the Bible is real or to disprove it. Just honestly seek the truth. And I believe because whenever we seek the truth, whenever we seek for a reason for something or we look for something, we would always find it here. If you seek for reasons not to do something, you would see reasons. If you look for reasons to do something, you would find reasons. And it is the same way with this. If you look for reasons not to believe the Bible, I promise you would see a lot. And if you look for reasons to believe the Bible, I promise you would see a lot. Millions, actually. A lot. So just honestly seek the truth. Seek that, okay, why is this thing true? Or why could this thing be false? Seek it, make your own research, make your own findings, and I promise you that you will find the answer. I promise you that God will show you the answer. And if you don't believe in God, He will still show you the answer, I promise you. And with that, I hope I have been able to, I've said that already, I hope I've been able to convince and to confuse you that the Bible is real. And I hope you have an amazing week. And amazing week, amazing day, amazing month. Happy New Month, by the way. I think I said that at the beginning of this video, I can't exactly remember. But Happy New Month, by the way. I hope you have an amazing week, amazing year, amazing day. And God be with you. Godspeed. Peace.